Hello again to everybody. So as John said, this is a bit of a first for us. It's a bit of a departure from our usual just post 20th century architecture in Birmingham, but there is a reason for that, and it is primarily because the post-war architecture in Digbeth is seriously under threat at the moment from planning applications that are currently in the pipeline. So before it's all gone, I thought it would be nice for us to actually take a walk just down a couple of streets actually to look at the 20th century architecture, but also to look at it in its context as of industrial architecture over 600 years in this bit of Birmingham. So it's definitely on the edge of our knowledge and experience because I'm not too good on medieval architecture, but I'm sure we'll manage. So as we're going along here, you might think to yourselves, well, we're looking at this 20th century stuff, but is it all that special? And overall, I'd have to say, no, it's not very special. There's no way that it's going to get listed. But the point of the walk and the point of really wanting to show you this is that altogether, it is an amazing collection of architecture through the 20th century, but particularly industrial architecture through the 20th century. In a very particular bit of Birmingham. I mean, we have the Jewellery Quarter, which is obviously famous and preserved because it was all about jewellery, and in a similar sort of way, you know, this is actually the Metal and Light Engineering Centre, one of the centres of Birmingham that actually has a similar, if not greater, or different collection of periods and of architecture, and is equally worthy of note and maybe saving. So we'll be time travelling. The walk takes us through, as I say, over 600 years of Birmingham's industrial history. It's a circular walk, but only down two roads, Floodgate Street, a bit of Paisley Street, and back down Heathmill Lane. So in fact, a very small fraction of the Digbeth conservation area. I'm just going to check that we haven't got anybody waiting to come in actually. Suddenly conscious of that. No. Okay. So what I'm showing you here, and I know it's a little difficult to see this, so all pour over your screens, is the map that's been included in the current planning application. So the current planning application has two bits to it. One is quite specific about and detailed about certain areas of planning, and the other is an outline planning application, which is saying in outline we would like to do this. As we look at this map, what I want to show, so the red are grade 2 listed, the yellow are all locally listed buildings. And the buildings that are very cross-hatched. If we look down Heathmill Lane, for instance, we can see all of these buildings that have got lots of cross-hatching on them, and all of these coming back along Floodgate Street. Those are all in the planning application, the outline planning application, as potential requests for demolition. They're all 20th century post-war buildings. So you can see what our concern might be about Digbeth and what's going on there. This area here, which is outside of the conservation area, and I will take you a little bit down Liverpool Street, is all due for demolition and has already had planning application agreement on that area. So the walk's going to start here, walk a little bit along the High Street, and then we go down Floodgate, all the way down Floodgate Street there, all the way down Floodgate Street, a bit along Paisley Street, we're going to take a little detour up there, and then we're going to come back along Heath Mill Lane and back to the beginning. So I hope you're oriented. So we're going to start here. Not a 20th century building, actually the oldest standing building in Birmingham, late 15th century, and it actually was the original Guildhall and School of St John the Baptist. So this is the seat and area of the original medieval settlement of Birmingham, and the High Street, and certainly the main road coming into Birmingham came through here, and we can see that here not only the Crown, but we can see a bit of a mixture of architecture actually. On the left we've got the Lloyd's building that's locally listed. And then we've got a little bit of a glimpse, and we'll come back to this, of the late 20th century building there. This is a 21st century building. And then we've got a bit of an Art Deco building there. And then across it all, we've got the Bawdsley Viaduct, which will be going underneath, backwards and forwards underneath on our walk. Okay, so for those of you who know Birmingham, I'm sure you'll recognise this, the Devonshire House, which is the Bird's Custard, that was built in 1902. Highly decorative, not a bit like 20th century architecture. Terracotta arches, windows, quite Art Nouveau lettering. We can have a little bit more of a look at that. So we've leapt from the 15th century to the early 20th century here. And one of the things I'd like to quote to you is from Historic England, and they say, because they're quite exercised about what's happening with Digbeth. Digbeth contains Birmingham's oldest building, as well as the large industrial complexes of household names such as Thai Food Tea and Bird's Custard. Now, Bird's Custard, I think, actually left in the 60s, but obviously the custard factory is still there. Okay, so Digbeth wouldn't be anything without all of its communication links, and we've just got two here. The River Ray, which isn't always visible, is underground for quite a bit of its journey, and again the Bawdsley Viaduct running over the top. It was shaped, Digbeth, not only by the railways, but also by the canals. Before that, by the canals. So those are really important things to be thinking about as we're going along. So if we look across there, we can see Floodgate Street School, grade 2 listed, 1891 building. And why am I talking about this one? Because it's not our period. Well, I suppose the thing that I would like to say about this is that why have we got, as we journey around, we'll see schools and we'll see churches. Why have we got schools and churches in an industrial area? And the answer is that this was actually a very crowded area in terms of housing pre-war. Not the best housing in Birmingham. Back to backs, they were called courthouses. And actually, as part of the whole slum clearance movement after the war, they were demolished. There was a lot of bomb damage in Digbeth as well. And between those two things, we have a large area, certainly what we're going to be looking at, that is post-war 20th century workshops. So the school itself is an example of the board school built in 1891 by Martin and Chamberlain, designed by Martin and Chamberlain, and it's very Gothic, very Gothic. I think the most interesting thing about this building actually is that tower is actually a ventilation tower, and you start to think about all of that metal working going on around it. They obviously tried to get the fresh air from much higher up into the classrooms for the school. Okay, so we're in the middle of Digbeth High Street here, taking your life in your hands. Just to orientate ourselves, looking towards the major city centre with the landmarks of Selfridges, Rotunda, and St Martin's in the Fields. And I suppose that, you know, apart from being clear whereabouts we are in Birmingham, it's useful again to remind ourselves of how near we are to the city centre, and actually how desirable Digbeth now is, particularly with HS2 coming in so close. Okay, so we're entering Floodgate Street. We've got another 21st century, actually this is late 20th century building of the South Birmingham College on the corner here. Postmodern architecture. I think it's pretty undistinguished, but you have to make your own mind up about that. And then we've got on the right hand side the back of Devonshire House and all of the industrial buildings that now form the custard factory. A fantastic complex, actually. Now that's a little bit sort of Art Deco, I think, in some of its aspects. The chimney there is by W.T. Orton, and that was 1910, so about the same time as the custard factory. And it was refurbished by Glenn Howells in 1992, and it is what it is today. You know, that some of that refurbishment has continued, but the major refurbishment was done in 1992. The current planning application, I'm just going to move on a bit and see a bit more of the custard factory there. The current planning application is for, in terms of the custard factory, is a vertical extension of 3 glass floors on the top. So you have to ask, what will that do? What will that do to the integrity of the building, which is pretty intact, actually, certainly externally, and is it really necessary? Okay, so we're looking straight down Floodgate Street, so we're going to walk all the way down this road, but on the right hand side we've got the Kennedy Memorial, and if you joined John's tour of public art, you'll have known that it's been moved from one location to here and rebuilt or actually made by William Budd's son. William Budd was the original designer, Oliver Budd, and is under threat again. This is fated. This is fated, this mural. Before the mural was there, I just have to give you a little personal story. There was a public toilet block here, and our family dog was found in the ladies' toilet, and so she was called Doglet because she was found in a toilet. He was a very nice dog, but a bit of a Houdini. Okay, great shot of the custard factory here, and if you look at the left-hand side, you can see that you know, actually it's skirting the river. You know, it's cut back in order that you know, they can fit it into this this space next to the River Ray. So the river runs, yeah, below that, way down. Actually, you saw it was way down below the wall there. And then you've got another shot there of the way that the custard factory is actually cut away. Look at those lovely Crittall windows that are still in there, original windows. We'll talk a lot about windows as we go through this walk. I am a bit fixated on windows. I'm just going to let somebody else in. But you know, this is, in fact, part of the advertising for the custard factory talks about its original industrial appearance. So obviously keeping the Crittall windows here was a good, they decided was a good marketing ploy. So the reason I'm showing you this photograph and this one is that this is through a gap, you know, a gap in the fence. So obviously there's nothing here that, you know, you'd want to keep, but actually is beyond repair almost. But this quite small little footprint, I mean, okay, it widens as it goes further back there, is going to be a 7-storey block of residential accommodation. And again, my question is, well, yeah, that's okay, but 7 stories is quite imposing if we think about this. Let's go back a bit. Imagine a 7-storey block there. Then in fact, you know, you're encroaching on the custard factory. If we go back a bit further to that shot down, you know, imagine a 7-storey block on this side, what that does to Floodgate Street School, actually, and that view down Floodgate Street. Okay, so we're looking back here to the school, and just a glimpse of the beginning of the wild works, and I'm going to group the wild works together because they are a quite amazing collection of industrial architecture over from 1935 through to 1967. And I will talk about this one in particular in a minute. But first of all, I just want to take you a little detour down Moores Row, which is between the school and that wild building. And we're going down to the bottom, to Melk Street, just to look at this garage on the corner there. Now, we'll see quite a bit of building of this sort of yeah, a nod. Well, it's an Art Deco-ish building. It's an Art Deco building, and brick building, 1-storey, some quite nice features, and very big footprint. And the other major thing about Digbeth that you'll notice as we go around is that a lot of buildings in the 20th century have these canted corners, so they open up the vistas. They've cut the corner off the buildings to open up the vistas. So we've got both that and the fact that they're 1-storey means that you're creating a particular sort of environment for Digbeth here. So this is looking down Melk Street again towards the viaduct, and on our right here we have the back of the first and the second of the wild buildings. That was the canteen, and I'm showing you this because actually that's in the plan. That's the detail plan, part of the detail planning application to demolish all of this and to build mixed-use 7-storey and other storey and lesser storey buildings in this plot. And I'll talk a bit more about that as we go along. So look at that great view actually as you walk back up Moores Row of the custard factory and the chimney, which will be partially obscured by this new building that on the other side of the road, this new 7-storey building on the other side of the road. So let's have a look at the wild works, 1935 to 1967. So we're looking back and we can see 2 of the wild works there before we get to the viaduct. But before we talk about those in detail, let's just look to the right. And I'm sure you'll know this. This is a pretty sort of iconic shot of Digbeth. All the graffiti, all the, sorry, it's not graffiti, what's it called? Suddenly forgotten what it's called. Anyway, the artwork and the bridge over the River Ray that leads you to the custard factory. Lovely architecture, lovely planes, lovely arches there. So let's go back to the Wild workshops. So this is, they're all numbered actually, but I get very confused because there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to the way that they're numbered. So I'm just going to go by their date. So this is the 1940s building, and this is actually the oldest of the Deco buildings, and possibly not quite as good as the two younger ones, but a very nice piece of industrial deco architecture. I mean, it's not going too mad. They're not going to spend loads and loads of money on it, but we got some nice step gables there, nice painted stonework, original windows. There's lovely openings in those original windows. Nice brickwork. And I think we've got a little feature of that ventilation shaft there. So a neat building in its own right. Plain, but good building. And there's another shot of it with a nice blue sky. So then we come on to the next Wild building. Now this is 1938, this building, and it's similar. Well, it's not similar. It's not as obviously deco as the other one, but very nicely proportioned. In fact, it is again of its period. Very nicely proportioned building. Again, nice windows, nice original windows still in there. And one would hope that if you could actually see the ground floor windows, that was opened up, this would be a completely different looking building to what it is now. But you'll see that as we go along, all of the Wild buildings, they're brick with either stone or concrete detailing. Either in these two ends, the lintels across the windows and the sills, nice pediment there, and there's the pediment in a bit more detail. 1938. Oh, I forgot to tell you about W.J. Wild Limited. So that they made washers originally. And then they actually expanded into automotive manufacture of precision automotive components. So definitely a Birmingham industry, and definitely a collection of very interesting industrial architecture. Okay, so we're now looking under Bordesley Viaduct, and we can see two more Wild buildings. Well, actually, we can see three, but two more particular Wild buildings going back in time, 1935, and then the Ray Studios, which was continued to be built until 1967. So let's look at this one, because this is my favourite, actually. Of these three. I think it's probably the best quality of the three, and it's the earliest. I mean, the brickwork on this is very nice, and again the stonework's great. Wonderful carving on the and lettering on the central area. Unfortunately, with this building, they've changed the windows, so actually they've ruined the proportions of it by changing the design of the window. Ruined, in my opinion, the proportions by changing the design of the windows. And now we've got the front door, nice deco features, and for all to see, W.J. Wild Limited. So then we're moving a bit further down Floodgate Street to what's now the Ray Studios, and this, as I say, was built between 1955 and 1967. Now, actually, I'll just hang on a sec because I've lost my. Now, what's interesting, as I said before, about all of the Wild buildings is that they're all brick built. They all have either stone or concrete features. This one you can see has got the canted corner, and there's a canted corner on the other side as well. Opens up the vista, opens up the space behind. Now this building, so all of these buildings that I've shown you are locally listed. And I think what we have to remember is that it doesn't really mean very much when you put in a planning application. So this building is, the request is for a total demolition of this. Now this is the one of the only modernist building, major modernist buildings in Digbeth, and yeah, a great example of how the company moved on from its deco life to this modernist feel. You know, it was moving with the times, and you can see where the various different bits of it were created as time went on. Now this building has still got all of its original windows, and unfortunately you can't see anything very well because they've got these horrible grids on top of it. But we've got this nice concrete coping. The corners are nicely defined. The central tower there is was the administrative block. In fact, between the windows, collection of windows, there's some more fancy brickwork, which I haven't got a photograph of, so you'll have to go and see it yourself. And then we moved to the actual tower, which is a very well known sort of site across all of Digbeth, and you can see it from different places in Digbeth. So if we look a bit closer at that, I mean, that's a very simple, understated, neat, modernist statement. Different windows here. We've got tile hanging in between. Unfortunately, some of those are falling off. Bit of a closer look there. Those goodness knows what they put in those windows. But looks like perspex actually. So that needs some thought. And this is the original staircase that you could just about see through the front windows. So, one would like to get inside and see, what's happened to it, what's going on inside the building. But one of the things about this, let's just go back a bit, about this building is that it's only one story. It's got a huge footprint. If you want to make money out of land, then you put a lot of building on it. You go up. You don't just buy it. You don't anymore. If you want to make money out of it, just have a one-story building. Okay, so we haven't finished with the wild buildings yet. There are more. So we're looking down River Street here. So there is we've got Floodgate Street and River Street. There is a sort of connection here. We've got Heath Mill down there. There's a lot about water around this area and how important it was. So you can see that the Ray Studios goes all the way down the left-hand side there, and on the right you've got the medical mission of 1880. It's a great building on that corner, isn't it? I mean, a great building wedge on that corner, which the Wild took over as their personnel department. So that's also part of the Wild collection. So we're going now from 1880 through to 1967 in terms of the buildings being used by this not a great company, not a well-known company, but actually a Birmingham company that existed doing the things that Birmingham did at that time, was famous for at that time. So I'd like you to, so on either side of the medical mission, we've got these wonderful sort of rows of workshops, and they are all post-war. They're all post-war. I think that they are a great. They're a great skyline, actually. Great effect, great abstract effect, and they're all down for demolition as well. Right, so we're looking back. We're looking back to the Ray Studios just to show you that canted corner on this side as well. So that, you know, that on both sides you've got this sort of opening into the streets. And I just like to, you know, we'll just walk back a bit so you can see Ray Studios again to Little Ann Street, because I just want to take you down the side. And I just want us to look down Little Ann Street. The sign for Little Ann Street is actually on the Floodgate Tavern, which I'm not going to feature in any great detail, but just to say that that this is, if I can find it, 1785, I think, this building. Yeah, Floodgate Tavern, 1785, and it's been a public house ever since. So obvious, as we go around, you'll see lots of public houses in Digbeth. Yeah, metalworking was obviously a thirsty business. And it's still thriving and it's still going. Anyway, further down the street, we get this view. And you know, we're not going to include this in the walk because the Typhoon building is a walk in itself, actually. But I would encourage you to go and have a look at it. So this Typhoon tea factory is this building at the back here, which was begun in 1925, and it was continued to be built until 1950. And you know, the architects were those famous group of architects, Harry Weedon and Partners. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Harry Weedon and Partners, but they're best known for their designs of Odeon cinemas. So, actually, it's worth a look. Well, it's huge. It is an absolutely huge collection of buildings. And in front of it, we've got, sorry, this isn't a terribly good shot. We've got the Anapole building, which again is a very neat sort of deco modernist building on the corner there. Nice brick built, nice concrete framing, tile hung round the doorway. And I'm showing you this because part of this is due for demolition as well. And the argument for this, and apparently for Ray Studios, is that they want to drive a straight road through Digbeth, because a lot of Digbeth is obviously the roads in Digbeth were laid down over many years, and there aren't many straight roads because it started off as a medieval settlement, and then the canals had an impact on it, and then the railways had an impact, and they want to drive a road all the way through, which really rather takes, or detracts from its historical significance as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so we're coming out of Little Ann Street, and over the road we see the final of the I think the final of the Wild buildings. I haven't found any more. Which I think is a garage. So this is a tiny little building. This is not locally listed, and I think is due for demolition. Now, I think it's rather sweet, this building, I have to say. It reminds me of doing Lego with my brother, and that you create that sort of Lego garage. I'm sure Jeff would appreciate that little Lego garage that you used to create for your cars to go into. So we've got canteen, three lots of workshops. This is the Wild building. A garage, the administrative block, more workshops, and the personnel department. All within distance of one another down Floodgate Street. I'd say these are from a period from 1935 to 1967, I'd say they're an important collection in their own right. So actually, to do what they're going to do to the very first one that I showed you, which is just to keep the facade and to build a 7-story block behind, is a bit of a sacrilege in my opinion, and will completely dwarf the facade in front. Okay, these are two rather neat, I think. We're moving a bit further down Floodgate Street here. Two rather neat modernist buildings with their original windows. Well, certainly the top floor and the first floor. Not quite sure what's happened on the ground floor. Nice original windows. Yeah, nothing flash, just good, clean, you know, simple lines, simple architecture. You know, a little bit of, you know, flash in the use of the concrete or stone emphasis there. These two will be kept. I think they will be kept, surprisingly. So if we then look back over the road, we can see a better shot of the sort of workshop roofs of the workshops there, some of which have got their windows in. I'm not sure whether all of them did have their windows in, but they look in very good condition actually. I mean, they've been refurbished, and it seems, and you know, there'll be loads of light in there from the windows above. And look at that lovely window there. I think that looks great. I mean, you can in fact see the roof light through that window. You know, surely these can be repurposed. You know, surely they don't all have to be knocked down and done away with. And next door to that, another you know, modernist building similar to the one over the road. You know, this one has been upcycled, and you know, it's looking pretty good, I think. You know, again, nothing flash. You know, it's just a good, nice, square, solid building. You know, there's nothing you're going to, you know, say it's absolutely amazing, but I think it's a very pleasant building. And I'm showing you this one because this is, I just wanted to show you, you know, a selection of rooms actually, because I think that's the other thing about Digbeth, is it's got all these different roof lines because of the different ages of the buildings, none of which are, you know, well, very few are over 2-story high. So, you know, it gives you that sort of easy feel to the area. Because of course it's, I mean, you know, in terms of the building right onto the pavement front, it's quite dense. It could be quite overpowering if you're going to build, you know, high rises in this quite confined area. Right, so this is the arch, late 19th century tube works. You know, very pleasant Victorian building, you know, with its arched windows. You've got some nice original windows on the ground floor. Something weird's happened on the first floor, but you know, an example of what you can do in terms of refurbishing a building. You know, so if we look through the gate, we can see what the courtyard looks like and how this has been turned into offices now. You know, this is not going to be knocked down. Because it's what everybody loves, Victorian. So we're coming to the end of Floodgate Street, and we're going to turn right into Paisley Street, and it might be time for a bit of a refreshment break because we've just spent a lot of time in Floodgate Street walking up and down it, and you might want a comfort break as well. So we could go to Billy's, which used to be the malt shovel, I think. And have a drink, you know. So 1922 pub built on the ground of another pub, which is a sort of fairly standard early 20th century public house. So, you know, let's go and have a drink in there all together, socially distanced, of course. And then if we need a comfort break over the road, we've got the Grade 2 listed urinal, which is in a bit of a sorry state, and it's a bit of a sorry photograph. I don't know why I couldn't get a good photograph of this, but I just couldn't get a good photograph of this, probably because it's in a very dark spot. It's not looking in very good shape, is it? It's really not. It's not going to be demolished, it's still going to be there, but I think somebody needs to actually take it in hand and do something a bit with it. So before we go down Heath Mill Lane, I just want to again take a tiny little detour into Liverpool Street, which is on the corner of, so Liverpool Street and Great Bar Street, that's the corner there. And this building, which is in a terribly sad state. Now, this area is all outside of the conservation area. And when I showed you that map in the beginning, this is the planning application's already been agreed for all of this to be demolished, and for the whole area to be rebuilt, basically. Primarily, I think, residential accommodation, lots of tower blocks going up along the high street in Digbeth, let alone in this area. So what we see, I mean, this is, this in its heyday was, they spent some money, they spent a bit of money on this building, again, great red and blue brick, construction, interesting windows. Look at that. Look at the brickwork there. There's a little bit of desire there to make it stand out. Great windows of the period, original. Not much got gas in them. In fact, not much of a roof on the whole thing. But just a pity, I think, just a pity that this has been let go. So before we go down Heath Mill Lane, just a couple of steps up Liverpool Street, and we come to the Birmingham Corporation Tramway Omnibus Department. And this building was opened in 1936, and it was formerly a tram shed. And it is the Birmingham Central Garage now, about to be shut. Absolutely huge. Look at it, huge building. All of it to be demolished. So I think I'm giving you a bit of a flavour, really, of how go and look at Digbeth before it's not there anymore. And then I just thought that was a good one to put in, because it feels like lots of developers wanting to make money out of Digbeth. Right, so we're back up Liverpool Street, and we're into Heath Mill Lane, and of this road there are only 2 buildings that have not been suggested could be demolished. This is the whole of Heath Mill Lane. The one is I think this is the back. This one here is the back of the arch on the other side. So that's got a reprieve. And the other is St Basil's Centre, which we'll look at in a minute. So again, nothing outstanding, but quite nice. The block here, nice block. We've seen a number of these. There's nothing wrong with this, and and it's a very good example of the period of industrial architecture of this period, and again pretty intact, actually. Original windows, nice brickwork, not thrown up. Some thought has gone into it. It might not surprise you that Heath Mill Lane did have a mill on it. That was originally a corn mill, and then in the 18th century became a mill for metalworking. I think it was then moved actually somewhere near Floodgate Street and River Street, but obviously the name has held on. So we're looking now towards the Digbeth High Street. You can see the bend in Heath Mill Lane, and just a little. So this is the arch here, and this is St Basil's. So these are the only two that are going to stay. And this is St Basil's Grade 2 listed building. You know, church that was obviously you know, required by all of the people who used to live here when people lived here. It was the former St John and St Basil's, built in 1910 by Arthur Dixon. You know, very Romanesque, quite plain Romanesque style, but an example of, you know, arts and crafts movement. So it's quite simple, really. It's quite simple and straightforward, except that the brickwork is so intricate. So let's look at it from, you know, nice arched windows there, little bell tower, and then this amazing brickwork features over the doorway, and in those little tower, red and blue bricks. That's obviously staying because it's Grade 2 listed, but in fact the buildings behind it, there is a request in to demolish the buildings behind it. Now, you might have to look hard here because this is actually quite a neat little Art Deco building beneath the artwork. This is a gallery on Heath Mill Lane. I got into trouble when I said about the artwork, you know, about actually it would look better without that stuff. And I don't dislike it, but, you know, I would quite like to see the building actually. And it would be nice to see the building without all the windows blocked off and the shutters. But you can, you know, if you look behind that, you can see the deco features here. You know, the round windows. You know, the little concrete pediment at the top. You know, quite nice brickwork there as a feature. So another little deco building on one of two actually on Heath Mill Lane. So this progress works. We're on the other side of the road, the opposite side of the road now to that building that we've just seen. It is the other one that we have major concerns about. Progress Works, which is the other major modernist building in Digbeth that is under threat, and this again has a huge footprint, and again is single story in the main part, with, you know, you can see the workshop roofs behind. Nice. The features of this building are, you know, nice brick built, you know, concrete framing, lots of nice use of different sorts of windows. Look, you can see here, we've got nice windows, look, canted corner, nice windows on either side. Then we've got little square windows, and we've got these slots at the bottom, which would look, you know, a hell of a lot better if they weren't filled in, and you know, that would completely change the aspect of the building. Unfortunately, somebody's changed the windows in this building, and so the slim crittle windows are now being replaced with something much heavier. So you've got a nice slot there. Look, a nice little bit of brickwork, nice concrete lintel, concrete framed. This one, similar here. More detailed, different brickwork on the front, huge area of frontage, and the concrete framing. Look at that all the way. Look at it. It's huge area, and that's what's really is very good about it actually, because it is a monumental building. It's a very sort of solid, you know, I am here sort of building. You know, there's nothing sort of namby-pamby about it. And then this is the other side on Bromley Street. Again, different set of windows here. So this would have been into the entrance, the foyer, you know, been covered over, so we can't really get the full benefit of the building. and then you can start to see some of those workshops behind, built of a different, in a different style. And this is looking back at progress works. You can see that the nice stretch of the buildings along the side there on Heath Mill Lane. Wonderful doorway, canted corner. What a pity that we can't see the full effect of this with those windows being covered up. Okay, so let's turn round and make our way a bit further along Heath Mill Lane. And we're nearly back to the beginning. We can see the back of the old Crown now, and we can see that 21st century building there under the viaduct. But before we turn right into the custard factory, let's just have a little look at this building. Now, this is definitely a Deco building, an Art Deco building. Difficult to decipher it really because of the fact I don't think it was originally painted. I don't particularly object to it being painted, but it does obscure some of the details. So again, we've lost the ground floor windows, which would make all the difference. These have all been blocked out, although they are the original windows. It makes a statement on that corner, a very strong statement. I'm here. It's a big building, anyway, its future's uncertain. So we'll turn right and we'll go towards the custard factory. I'm sure you recognise all of this, that we're going back under Bordsley Viaduct now. We've got Ghetto Golf there. I'm not going to. We've got the custard factory with its lovely windows there. And then we can see up to all of these different styles of architecture, including this quite modern building here. Modern as in not in modernist, but modern, postmodern. And then we've got a Glen Howells building from 1997. Now, I actually really like this Glen Howells building. I'm not a great fan of Glen Howells, partly because he's the one that built those buildings on top of the Central Library. What was the Central Library? Those are his buildings, which I don't think have anything very much of merit about them. And even Andy Foster actually in Pevsner, says good things about this building. If I can find it. Oh yes, he says delightfully treated with light oval plate balconies suspended from steel masts. So I think that's quite a nice building, and it complements the custard factory, and I think people think that actually some people who haven't looked at it very closely think that it is part of the custard factory, which of course it isn't. So then we're going back under the Bordsley Viaduct, back towards Floodgate Street, and I'll just show you that nice view. Look there, all along the river to the Ray Studios. Isn't that going to be a great loss if we lose that view? If we lose that view through the viaduct of the Ray Studios, you can see the administrative block much better here. Going back from the town, and we can't finish in Digbeth without a little look at the artwork, which is changing, of course, all of the time, which is what makes it part of what makes it so dynamic. Question is how much artwork should be going on some of the buildings that we've been looking at. So there's the map again. So let me just run through. We've come down here, and we've gone down Floodgate Street, and we looked at that first Wild building. So that bit at the front's going to be kept, but that bit is not going to be kept, and all of that's not going to be kept. And that bit of the second building is going to be kept, but not all of that may not be kept. All of the Ray Studios goes. All of these buildings behind the facades go. All of those. The workshops with the sawtooths go. All of these on the other side of Floodgate Street are gone. And then we come down Heath Mill Lane and you can see there's virtually nothing. That's the progress works there. There's the little deco building is over the side. Those are the modernist buildings on the end. And that's that, the Art Deco one that looks a bit like a cinema. And this is all of the area that I talked about. This is the garage. Is that the garage? I think that's the garage that we looked at. That's the planning application number if you are interested in having a look at 120 documents. The heritage assessment is possibly the most interesting. In fact, where I've got a lot of information, you know, for this walk from the heritage statement. And that's it. Thank you very much.